Hello, happy continuing summer, and welcome to More Layers. I'm Seth Mariano.
And I'm Jordan Smith, and at least where we are, we're in the middle of a heat wave, so we thought it'd be a fun idea to kind of go in the opposite direction with what we're going to be talking about today, which is Disney's popular film, Frozen.
Yeah, a movie that is now just over a decade old, but it is still going strong from what I can see.
Oh, yeah, which is kind of interesting to me, because I remember before this film came out, and I believe that was 2013. Uh, I saw very little advertising for this film, and yet when it came out after it released, it suddenly just exploded in popularity. Like it was absolutely everywhere. Many people speculated that it was because of one particular song, which we'll definitely get to, but it was popular enough that it already has a sequel with a third on the way. It's had at least one or two shorts, at least for the first movie, I'm pretty sure. Um, and of course, people still sing that one big song, some of the stuff from the second film, but you would be hard pressed to go through a place like Walmart or something and not find something Frozen related in the toy section.
Nah, and just the other day I saw a kid dressed as one of the characters
No kidding, where was this?
at church. Little kid.
Huh. At church, it seems. Hmm.
Yeah, just clothing.
Yeah, I'm not like judging or anything. It was a place I wouldn't have initially expected it.
Right.
But this movie came out on the heels of Tangled that came out 2 or 3 years prior. And apparently, from what I understand, Idina Menzel, who voiced Elsa, one of the main characters in this movie, actually auditioned for Rapunzel in Tangled. While she didn't get the part, apparently they kept her audition logged away, pulled it back out for when they were making Frozen, and they gave her the part of Elsa.
Yeah, I believe Kristen Bell also read for Tangled, but they passed on her ultimately. I believe she said in an interview.
And the role was given to, what was it, Mandy Moore?
I think
For Rapunzel, I mean.
I'm not sure if she read specifically for Rapunzel or not, but I wouldn't be surprised though.
Okay. So, this film is actually kind of different from the standard Disney princess film. For one, it goes against the typical norm of how a lot of classic Disney princesses just meet a guy and then all of a sudden they're just together. Like they're about to be married, they're going to go off on their own, have their happily ever after. Whereas in this film, after Anna meets someone, Elsa's sister, Elsa says a quote that has been joked about amongst Disney fans where she goes, "You can't marry a man you just met."
Yeah, they kind of flip that tradition, if there is such a thing, if you can say, kind of on its head, where Anna is determined pretty much to marry this guy she just discovered, and she is certain that she's going to do that, but she's faced with some legitimate criticism for it.
And not just from Elsa either, but from another character that we'll talk about by the name of Kristoff. Uh, and this person that she wants to marry that she just met is a prince named Hans. And I think part of the reason she might have attached herself to him so quickly is because for the vast majority of her life, she and her sister were just locked up in this castle, not because of some big evil force, but rather because after Elsa's powers were discovered and Anna got injured, almost critically, even fatally at some point, they decide it would be best to keep the two separated. And by they, I mean the parents. So not only is she locked up in this castle, like shut out from the outside world completely, but she can't even see her own sister. So any type of social interaction that she can get, I would understand that she would immediately cling on to.
Yeah, I think it's natural. I remember I took a psychology course in college. We touched a little bit on Maslow's motivational theory stuff, and it pretty much suggests that if you're not getting, enough attention, if you're not getting like a sense of belonging where you already are at home, you'll look for it just about anywhere else, pretty much.
Yeah, that's very much accurate. It's like you don't find it one place, then you might be more determined to find it somewhere else. And she finds it in this guy. At least she thinks she does, but this is a lot of stuff we're building up to. And when she asks for her sister's blessing, since Elsa's technically the head of the castle now, she flat out just says no, which frustrates Anna at first, and she keeps pushing for answers, only for Elsa to accidentally out herself during the ballroom dance. Because up to this point, anyone who didn't already know she had these abilities when she was a kid, which was basically her sister and her parents, they had no idea Elsa had these abilities, which is part of the reason why during the even I'm saying it wrong like they did in the movie, even during the coronation when she has to hold this staff and some metallic fruit looking thing as a symbol of royalty, she's waiting so impatiently to put them back because there's ice slowly encasing them. And this does lead to one question I did always have, is why did they require her to take the gloves off?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's like kind of like the wedding ceremony tradition with the veil when they pull that back or something, but that's just a guess.
I suppose so. That's a plausible answer. It just seemed like it didn't necessarily affect anything necessarily, but yeah, it could be like the wedding veil type of thing where it's just a traditional thing for them to physically hold it without any barriers in the way. Who knows? But she was able to get away with it until that moment during the dance where she flicks her wrist, out comes this spiky ice. And what's interesting about her abilities is that the appearance it takes kind of depends on her emotion. Like if she's upset, angry, whatever, a lot of what she creates is a lot more threatening looking, a lot of spikes, a lot of very dangerous, creepy looking figures, eventually creating this giant, abominable snowman. So she does that, spikes come out, everybody is now afraid, like her parents thought they might be, and her answer to that is to just completely run off, just completely disappear.
Yeah. Yeah. Leading up to this, Elsa was pretty much shutting herself out. Pretty much, you could argue, to protect Anna's safety and maybe even protect her own image while she was at it. But, the secret could only stay hidden, evidently, for so long.
Yeah, in a story like this, when there's a big secret that someone really has to keep, there's a high probability that that secret is going to come out at some point. Oftentimes, it happens in the last third of the movie, especially if someone was lying, and then that lie is discovered later. But in this case, it's like in the first third of the movie, you could argue.
Yeah.
And then she runs off, which technically leaves Anna in charge because she was next in line, if you will. But then she takes the action of going to look for her herself, leaving Prince Hans in charge, which in hindsight is a very dangerous move because you don't know this guy. He's the youngest of 12, so he has no experience. Or the youngest of 13 because he has 12 older brothers. So he likely has no idea how to run a kingdom. And especially what we know about him later, who knows what he could have done.
Right.
So she goes off, eventually runs into Kristoff, who also calls her out on trying to marry someone she just met that day.
Yeah. Honestly, it's my favorite thing about Kristoff. He'll say stuff like that pretty much others are too afraid to. He'll say the stuff that people probably know, but they won't say anything about.
Yeah, and even though he does end up falling in love with Anna and ending up marrying her, he takes his time. This isn't something that just immediately happens. They express their love at the very end of the movie, and then they don't even get engaged until the end of the second one.
Though I think even throughout the second film, he's trying to propose.
He was definitely looking for different opportunities. Part of the reason it took some time there is either because he couldn't think of the right things to say,
Right.
or he would end up saying the wrong thing and just kind of delaying it.
Yeah.
Like when they were in, not to go too far off track, but when they were in that mysterious forest, one of the things he says while getting down on one knee is, "In case we die," trying to sound romantic, and then she panics and runs off.
Yeah.
But she finds him after going to this little shop, I guess, in the middle of the woods.
The trading post?
Trading post, yeah, that's probably a better way to put it. And this guy who's very Swedish is trying to help her out, and that's when Kristoff walks in. So when she's trying to figure out what the best equipment to get is and where she might be, she ends up helping him by getting him the supplies he was looking for. And kind of in exchange, she tries to display authority by saying, "We're leaving now." And they both go off trying to go up this mountain. Hijinks ensue.
Yep, and then they eventually find Elsa with her new look, her new ice castle, and Anna tries to convince her to come back and fix things, but it just gets worse.
And before they even get there, they find out that apparently Elsa can create some form of life using her magic in the form of their childhood kind of imaginary snowman friend Olaf, who now can speak and think for himself. And aside from Elsa and maybe Anna, Olaf here is probably the most popular character from the movie.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a large part of that has to do with Josh Gad's iconic performance.
Yeah.
And he sings a song, ironically, about how much he wants to experience summer, not knowing what that would do to him.
Yeah.
And I think there's a sequence in there where there is a sequence where he's dancing with some birds, and I would have to assume that's kind of paying homage to Dick Van Dyke's character in Mary Poppins Dancing with a Few Penguins.
Oh, yeah, I imagine it would be.
Like, it's a very similar style, the music is kind of similar, and he's just having fun with it, so it could be an homage. Even if it's not, it could be treated as such. So yeah, he sings his song, and a lot of quotable lines happen. They traverse up this mountain, and like you said, they find Elsa, and Anna is convinced that she'll be able to explain everything and convince her to come back down the mountain. The only thing that happens, though, is her sister gets more anxious, still in the mindset that they should not be anywhere in close proximity to each other. And that results in them singing one more song, and instead of being struck in the head this time, Elsa accidentally strikes her in the heart with the ice. So now the clock's ticking, because if she doesn't receive an act of true love from somebody, she will be permanently frozen as an ice statue. And at this point, they think that that's going to come from Hans, considering that's the person that she supposedly loves right now. So Kristoff, despite all of the things he's been doing with her and the feelings he's starting to develop, he selflessly takes her back to the kingdom to get that act of true love from Hans.
Yeah, it's similar in a way to Beauty and the Beast, where the Beast is genuinely falling in love with this lady, but is too sensitive to cling to her, even though he thinks he's got to break the magic by loving her and getting her love. He can sense that she is not exactly happy, and he wants her to be happy, so he lets her go free.
Now, one thing that did confuse me, at least when I first saw this movie, is after he successfully brings her back to the kingdom, they close the doors and he's still outside. Like, I don't think they intentionally shut him out, but it's kind of weird that he didn't go in with her. Maybe he figured that once she was in the hands of the people who actually live in the kingdom, that he was probably never going to see her again. But for all I know, there might have been some other factor in there. But they bring her in, she explains the situation, and is placed in the room with Hans. And this is where the big twist happens.
Yeah, and basically, it kind of twists in a very sneaky way, because he looks like he's about to kiss her, and he gets really close to her butt, and then he pretty much turns his back, and you could say leaves her for dead.
Which is kind of interesting, honestly. Like, this is probably around the time the twist villain type of angle started happening more in movies. Here, while it is very potent, and I know when I first saw it, there were a lot of people that were legitimately shocked. In a way, you could almost argue he didn't need to do that, in a sense. Like, yeah, Elsa had the throne, so he wouldn't have necessarily been on the throne had he married Anna. But at the same time, it's like, if he had kept up his nice guy persona and married her and continued to be a gentleman, even though he wouldn't have been king, he might have still had some authority given the position he would have been in. But instead, he decides, I'm going to leave her to die and make sure her sister endures a similar fate, starting off by guilt-tripping her, making her think she was responsible for what happened, and then he almost actually gets away with it. Because while all this is happening, they're walking through this intense blizzard. So really, nobody can see what's happening or why it's happening. So he's about to strike her down, and by this point, Olaf has actually come in and saved Anna, or at least bought her some time, and helped her realize that Kristoff did love her. So now she realizes, now I gotta go find him. But before she actually catches up with him, they see each other, but then she turns, sees what Hans is doing, and makes the ultimate sacrifice by stopping Hans dead in his tracks.
Yeah, the whole Kristoff loves her thing. It's kind of a nice twist on what Disney is at least accused of suggesting love is, or what the culture often suggests. And it's, yeah. And going beyond the picturesque, sunshiny, lollipop, rainbow ideal of tangos and chocolates and roses, it goes deeper than that here. It's really about looking out for somebody.
Yeah, the great lengths that he was willing to go to for someone else showed just how much he cares about her. Because again, he brought her back to the kingdom knowing full well that he may never have a chance with her or may never even see her again. And then when he does go back for her, he does anything he can to help her out, and when they're finally together, he still takes his time making sure that he's ready, that she's ready. And even though he's a nervous wreck, there are a lot of guys who would be in his situation,
Yeah.
he eventually does get the girl. This is kind of like why, at least one of the reasons why I love Beauty and the Beast so much, because the Beast is willing to go against his whole lifestyle that he's lived for the past 20 years because he cares so much for this girl that he's willing to subvert all that, goes out of his way to fight off a bunch of dangerous wolves to save her, fights off this other guy, in this case Gaston, and in his dying moments, all he can think about is, at least I got to see you one more time. Because he sent her away
Yeah.
so she could be with her father, knowing full well he might have missed his one and only chance. So Kristoff, also going to that great length, it's rare, but when it happens, it's a nice touch to add to the story.
You can't really determine if something is love or not often, if ever, in a flash. Like you've got to kind of give it a test run over time. Like one of my favorite songs is an old ballad called "You Send Me," which we were at a parade, and on the bus we heard a cover version of it. There's a lyric that goes, "At first I thought it was infatuation, but now it's lasted so long. Nowadays I find myself wanting to marry you and take you home." So yeah, just the idea that you know feelings can be deceptive. Yeah, and you really got to be analytical, really test for a little period of time before you make that big leap.
Yeah, because really, I know there's that popular phrase, love at first sight, but even if you think you love someone, and this is coming from a guy who's single, I am personally of the belief that even if you're really attracted to someone,
Yeah.
establish a strong friendship with them first. Because
Yes.
for all you know, if you just immediately dive into a relationship, and this is a general you, not aimed at anyone specific.
Sure.
Um, if you immediately dive into a relationship, for all you know, you could find out something about them later on that is, as many people refer to it now, as a major red flag. Except now you're in this awkward position where you have to, if you're smart, split from that relationship, even though it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
And it could have been avoided if you just started off being friends, and then that's when you found out about them, and then you can slowly just peter out the connection. It doesn't have to be a rip off the Band-Aid moment.
Yeah. You think you can know somebody in just a day. Maybe in rare cases you can, but it's super, super difficult.
Yeah, and even after somebody does take their time and eventually marry someone, there's bound to be things that they'll find out after marriage, but ideally, they'll know everything they need to know by that point to determine whether or not that person is the one they want to spend the rest of their life with.
Yeah, and that kind of thing, love at first sight is not the only thing that this movie flips on its head so well. One thing I thought of a lot is how they shatter the sort of facade, well, somewhat arguably positive, but nonetheless not as helpful stereotype of the perfectly put together their princess lady. Because with Anna, and Kristen Bell put a lot of input into this. She said she wanted a character who's like a bit clumsy, got like drool, whatever, and she is refreshingly realistic. She's clumsy, a bit of a fast, nervous talker, and it's again impulsive, and and it's a refreshing, beautiful thing, I think, to see especially in this day and age, where so many women, I mean, I know some who don't, but a lot of them seem to take themselves so seriously and insist that they're perfect or whatever. But this lady, Anna, knows who she is, good, bad, ugly, and can just take ownership of that.
Yeah, it shows that she is, in fact, human. Even Elsa, who has these abilities, she's not perfect by any stretch.
No.
But Anna is definitely a bigger case, at least here, in my personal opinion. Because I feel like the movie focuses more on her, so you have more opportunities to relate to her and her human qualities.
Yeah.
And then another subversion, I guess, of expectations comes with the animal sidekick. A lot of animal sidekicks in Disney movies especially, they fall into either one of two categories. Either one, they're the talking animal sidekick, usually in a humorous fashion, or if they don't speak, you can definitely still kind of tell how they're feeling based on their reactions and their facial expressions. Here, with the animal sidekick of Sven, the reindeer, even though he kind of falls into a stereotype of the animal sidekick acting like a dog, even though they're not a dog, at least to some capacity, one thing I liked is that they kind of went halfway between the two typical animal sidekick stereotypes, where he doesn't speak, but Kristoff kind of speaks on his behalf, kind of giving him a goofy voice on top of it. And you can tell that's basically what Sven is thinking, because he's still giving facial expressions and reacting in various ways.
Yeah, at one point I think like Kristoff does like a ventriloquy thing with Sven, kind of like moving his mouth with his hands or something.
Kind of, sort of, yeah. Like there's a moment that I can think of where it's basically the moment where Kristoff convinces himself to go back for Anna. And even though he's the one basically putting words into Sven's mouth, you can tell that's what Sven is thinking, and Kristoff just goes, sometimes I hate you.
Yeah.
So eventually, we find out the act of true love, which is another subversion of expectations, does not have to come from your romantic partner.
It doesn't have to be of a romantic nature either.
Exactly. And because ultimately, the act of true love that does save her comes from the bond that she has with her sister. And that's when even Olaf puts it together. It's like, oh, an act of true love. It's right there. So once they figure out that love is the answer to the whole issue with the winter storm and all that, Elsa uses her powers to fix everything. And because now that it's clicked in her head, she's able to do it so quickly. That being said, I don't know about you, but I probably would have gotten off the frozen lake first before I started thawing everything, but that's just me. They end up on one of the ships that was trapped in the ice, so they were fine.
Yeah.
But still. So everything is fixed. Hans also is on the boat, so Kristoff initially takes a step forward towards him as if he's like, I know everything you just did and you're going to pay for it. But Anna steps in, gives him a punch to the face, sending him flying off the boat. Because usually, I don't mean to say the word usually too much, but usually it is the two guys fighting on behalf or to try and get the girl. And it almost did that, only to have the girl come in and punch the bad guy.
Yeah, she's like the Disney Princess Fiona.
In a way, yeah. Now that you mention that, they know how to defend themselves, at least to some degree. Fiona definitely does. They even have similar hair color, hairstyle.
Yeah.
And they're both, at various times, pretty feisty.
Yeah. They clearly have more martial arts experience than I do.
Now, granted, Shrek came out about 12 years before Frozen did. And even then, Shrek was kind of like a cinematic punch, if you will, to Disney. Not necessarily to the degree of giving them the verbal middle finger, necessarily, but it was kind of a jab at Disney and all of their tropes.
Sure.
And by the time Frozen came out, they were kind of subverting their own tropes, at least for a little while.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it all ends well, and it's like Arendelle is pretty much back into spring again, and things get peacefully resolved. Everyone's pretty much happy, at least for a little while.
And this is one of those things that's just now coming to my mind. This is one of the few times that I can think of where the princess gets married and it's not weird. By that I mean most of the Disney princesses are in their early to mid-teen years at best. Like Snow White is 14, I think Jasmine was supposed to be 15, Belle might have been 16, something like that. I don't remember the exact ages of all of them, but a few of them were not quite at the age where modern rules would say it would be considered okay to be married. But in this film, supposedly, Anna is about 18 and Elsa is about 21. So these are probably the oldest Disney princesses eventually turned queens out of the whole Disney princess lineup.
Yeah, at least one of them's actually old enough to drink by this point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect Anna would, or rather Elsa would be the type to do that. Maybe she does, and we don't know.
No.
But in some capacity, they're both of, by our modern country standards, of legal age. Granted, in different countries and cultures, the limitations are different. We're just going by what our laws and such say.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, and that's pretty much the story of a Disney phenomenon right there. And thanks everybody for streaming, and stream us on demand on YouTube and YouTube Music, and leave any comments on our YouTube comment section, and please let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, with this being one of the highest grossing films, period, not just Disney, I'm sure most of you have seen this film at least once before. So please let us know your thoughts on this movie. Talk to us about what other films and TV shows you want us to look at, whether it's Disney related or not. If there's a theatrical production that Seth and I have been a part of before that you want us to talk about again, or if there's a film based on the productions we've done, maybe we could talk about one of those. Either way, any interactions we have with you are more than welcome, and for all you know, one of your ideas will be featured in a future episode.
Yep. Well, until next time, bye-bye, everybody.
So long.